In January 1909, for 7 consecutive days, the state of New Jersey came to a standstill. Schools closed, factories sent workers home, mills in the Delaware Valley shut down their operations because the employees were too afraid to walk to work. Police officers in the city of Bristol, Pennsylvania, opened fire on something moving through the streets at 3 a.m. Hunters formed posses. A trolley car in Haddon Heights was attacked in the dark by something with wings. Over 1,000 eyewitness accounts were recorded in that single week, across more than 30 towns, in 2 states, from people who had no way of communication with one another in real time. Farmers, postmen, police chiefs, a sitting member of Congress, a postmaster, a Catholic priest. All of them described the same thing. Something with the body of a kangaroo, the head of a horse or a dog, leathery wings like a bat's, but wide enough to stretch across a farm road, cloven hooves that left tracks in the snow, tracks that walked across rooftops, up the sides of buildings, across yards and fields and frozen ponds, in places where no hoofed animal had any business being. The newspapers called it an outbreak. The people who saw it called it by the name their grandparents had used, and their grandparents before them, the Jersey Devil. Tonight, we're going to talk about a creature that has been stalking the New Jersey Pine Barrens for nearly 300 years. A creature born, according to legend, in a fit of exhaustion and curse words spoken by a mother in 1735. A creature that has been seen by thousands, shot at by hundreds, photographed by no one, and killed by no one. This is the Jersey Devil. There's a particular kind of horror that comes from being looked at by something that doesn't need to hide from you. Most monsters in most stories are creatures of the dark. They stay out of the light. They avoid the eye. They work by ambush, by surprise, by the quick moment of terror before the prey even knows what has happened. That's how predators survive. You don't let yourself be seen. Not if you can help it. The Jersey Devil lets you see it. It stands at the edge of the tree line while your headlights sweep across it. It flies low over a town at dawn while a postmaster walks to work. It lands on a rooftop and leaves tracks in the snow that are still there the next morning for anyone to find. For nearly 300 years, this creature has been seen by thousands of people. Police officers, farmers, priests, congressmen. The sightings have been recorded. The tracks have been photographed. The eyewitness reports have filled newspaper columns and court testimony and scientific inquiries. And they're still coming in, as recently as this year. And in nearly 300 years, no one has ever caught it. Nobody. No bones. No living specimen. No skeleton in a museum. Not a single verified piece of physical evidence beyond the tracks it chooses to leave behind. That combination is the heart of what makes this legend so unsettling. Because either thousands of people across 3 centuries in 2 states with no ability to coordinate with one another have been describing the same exact hallucinations, or something is out there. It's learned, very carefully, how to be seen without ever being caught. Something that chooses when to appear. Something that chooses who sees it. Something that's been watching the same forest for longer than the United States has been a country. And it's figured out, with the patience of a thing that doesn't age, exactly how much of itself it can show without risking capture. That is not animal behavior. That is the behavior of something that has decided it doesn't have to run. Imagine this. You're driving home late at night down Route 72, one of those 2-lane highways that cut through the heart of the Pine Barrens. It's past midnight. The radio's thin, picking up only one station, a distant AM broadcast from somewhere in Pennsylvania that fades in and out. Your headlights carve a narrow tunnel of light through the pines on either side of the road. And beyond that tunnel, there's nothing. Just black. You've been driving for 40 minutes without seeing another car. The last gas station was 20 miles back. The next one is 20 miles ahead. The trees lean in close to the shoulders, their trunks too thin, their branches too dense, and the road ahead disappears into a curve that never seems to straighten out. You crack your window. The air is cold and smells like wet pine and something else, something mineral, like stagnant water, like iron. Then the radio cuts out. Not static, not a weak signal. Silence. The kind of silence you don't realize a car's been filling with noise until it stops. Your dome light flickers. Your dashboard dims for half a second and comes back. Your foot lifts off the gas on its own, and in that moment of quiet, you hear something from the tree line off to your right. A sound that you can't place. Not a howl, not a scream. Something with shape to it. Like a voice that has forgotten how to form words. You tell yourself it was a deer. You press the gas again. The road curves, and as your headlights sweep across the trees, something at the edge of the forest catches the light and throws it back. Two flat discs of red, too high off the ground. You know what you're looking at is wrong before your mind has caught up to why. It's the proportions. The shoulders are too narrow. The head sits at a wrong angle on the neck. The legs fold backward in a way that legs shouldn't fold. There's something behind the shoulders that shouldn't be there. Something folded, something tucked, something that catches the moonlight in a way skin and fur does not. Your foot is still on the gas. The car's still moving, and you're going to drive past this thing whether you want to or not. It doesn't run. It doesn't crouch. It doesn't turn and disappear into the woods the way a deer would, the way a coyote would, the way any animal with something to lose would. It watches you the way a heron watches a fish in shallow water. Patient, unhurried, already certain of what happens next. And as your car passes it, you understand, in a way that's older than thought, older than reason, older than any story you've ever been told, that this thing isn't hiding. It was not startled by your headlights. It didn't stumble into the open by accident. It wanted you to see it. And when you check your rearview mirror half a second later, the road behind you's empty. No shape at the tree line. No red eyes. No silhouette walking back into the woods, as though it had never been there at all. You just met the Jersey Devil. The legend of the Jersey Devil begins as many great American legends do, with a woman who had reached the end of her patience. Her name was Jane Leeds. History remembers her as Mother Leeds, and the few documents that survive from her life suggest she lived in a small cabin somewhere in the Pine Barrens, near the town of Leeds Point in Atlantic County, New Jersey. The year was 1735. Jane was already the mother of 12 children, and she was pregnant with her 13th. The story, as it's been told on front porches and around campfires in New Jersey for nearly 300 years, goes like this. The night she went into labor, a terrible storm was rolling through the pines. Thunder shook the walls. Rain hammered the cedar shingle roof. Jane was tired. She was poor. Her husband was a drinker, or absent, or both, depending on who's telling the story. She had 12 mouths to feed already, and now a 13th was coming. And in the middle of the pain and the exhaustion and the noise of the storm, she said the words that would echo through 3 centuries of New Jersey folklore. Let this one be a devil. Some variations say she screamed it. Some say she whispered it. Some say she said it with full intent, cursing the child before it had drawn a breath. The details drift. The core of the story never does. She asked for a devil, and a devil is what she got. The baby was born looking like a normal child. For a few minutes, everything seemed fine. The midwives wrapped the newborn in blankets. Jane rested. The other children stood at the edges of the room, watching. And then, the child began to change. According to legend, its face stretched and lengthened into the snout of a horse. Leathery wings unfolded from its back, its legs elongated and twisted until they ended in cloven hooves. A forked tail emerged. Its small human hands became clawed. It turned on the midwives. It attacked the family. It beat its mother with its wings. And then it let out a piercing, unearthly shriek, scrambled up the chimney of the Leeds cabin, and disappeared into the storm. From that night on, it's lived in the Pine Barrens. That's the folklore. The history is stranger. And this is the part of the story most people never hear. There really was a Leeds family living in that part of New Jersey in the early 1700s. Daniel Leeds was a Quaker turned political writer who published almanacs and religious pamphlets that put him in direct conflict with the Quaker community. His writings were condemned by the Society of Friends as heretical. After his death, his son, Titan Leeds, took over the family almanac business and found himself in a public feud with Benjamin Franklin, who ridiculed Titan in print for years. And the Leeds family crest, printed on their almanacs, featured a dragon-like creature with wings and a forked tail. A real family, with a real coat of arms that looked exactly like a demon. Politically unpopular, religiously controversial, publicly mocked by one of the most famous men in colonial America. It doesn't take a long leap of imagination to see how that family might become the subject of folk stories about a demonic child. Some researchers argue that the Jersey Devil legend was never about a literal monster at all, that it was a piece of political propaganda crafted by the Leeds family's enemies that drifted into the folk consciousness of the Pine Barrens over the course of 2 centuries. That theory would be tidy. It would close this case. It would let all of us sleep a little bit easier at night. Except for one problem. If the Jersey Devil is only political slander, a story invented by Quakers to ruin a family's name, then someone needs to explain why people keep seeing it. Why farmers in the 1820s reported it. Why hunters in the 1850s reported it. Why 1,000 people in 1909 reported it in a single week in 30 different towns. Before the internet, before the telephone, before the wire services could coordinate a story that large. Why people are still reporting it right now, in the 21st century. A lie doesn't leave hoofprints in the snow. To understand how seriously the Jersey Devil is taken in the region, you have to understand what happened during the 3rd week of January in 1909. The event is known to folklorists and local historians as the Phenomenal Week. For 7 straight days, the creature was seen by so many people in so many places that it became the single largest cryptid sighting event in American history. It began on the morning of January 16th. A Woodbury, New Jersey resident named Zach Cousins stepped out of his house on his way to work and saw a creature with glowing red eyes in the sky above his street. He watched it for a few seconds before it flew off toward the east. He reported it to the local paper. The paper printed it, and then the reports started coming in from everywhere. In Bristol, Pennsylvania, on the morning of January 17th, a local postmaster named E.W. Minster was walking to work when he saw what he described as an eagle-headed creature with the body of a kangaroo flying over the Delaware River. Minutes later, a police officer named James Sackville reportedly fired his service revolver at a similar creature in an alley on the edge of town. The creature didn't fall. It shrieked, flapped its wings, and rose into the sky. In the town of Burlington, residents woke up to find cloven hoof prints in the snow on the roofs of their homes. The tracks walked across shingles, across porch awnings, across the tops of fences. They followed no logical path. They crossed yards, leapt to rooftops, and reappeared on the opposite side of the street, as though whatever had made them had flown between. By nightfall on the 17th, sightings had been reported in Trenton, Camden, Moorestown, Haddonfield, and 24 other towns scattered across southern New Jersey and eastern Pennsylvania. The 18th was worse. A trolley car in Haddon Heights was reportedly attacked by a winged creature. It had kept pace with it for nearly half a mile. The conductor told reporters that the creature flew itself against the side of the car, again and again, until the driver accelerated past it. Passengers screamed and hid behind the seats. In Camden, a woman named Mrs. Sorbinski heard her dog shrieking in her backyard. She ran outside with a broom and found the dog in the jaws of what she later described as a creature that looked like a winged man. She swung the broom. The thing dropped the dog, shrieked in her face, and rose into the night sky. Police responded and fired into the air. Neighbors reported hearing the shrieks coming from the rooftops long after the police had left. By the 19th, entire towns were shutting down. Schools closed because parents refused to send their children outside. Mills and factories sent workers home because so many of them had called in sick, citing fear of the creature. Posses of hunters were organized across the region. The Philadelphia Zoo, in a move that tells you everything about how seriously this was being taken, publicly offered a reward of $10,000 for the creature's capture. In 1909, $10,000. That's the equivalent of well over $300,000 today. No one collected it. The sightings continued through the 23rd. Over the course of 7 days, more than 1,000 individual eyewitness accounts were documented in newspapers across New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, and Maryland. Police officers, postmasters, a member of Congress was reported among the witnesses. School teachers, farmers, an entire trolley of passengers. And then, just as suddenly as it began, it stopped. By the end of January, the sightings had tailed off. The creature, whatever it was, had returned to wherever it came. But the phenomenal week left a mark on the state that never fully faded. In the decades that followed, the Jersey Devil became part of the region's identity. The state's professional hockey team, founded in 1982, is named after it. Local bars and restaurants carry its image. The Pine Barrens became a destination for monster hunters, cryptozoologists, and paranormal investigators, all hoping to catch a glimpse of what over 1,000 people had seen in a single week more than 100 years ago. But the Jersey Devil isn't a creature of the past. The sightings never really stopped. They just slowed down, thinned out, became the kind of story that people only share with a couple of drinks in them, or with old friends, or with strangers they're never going to see again. One account in particular has stayed with me. In the early 2000s, a woman was driving home through the Pine Barrens on a 2-lane road that cut between the towns of Chatsworth and Tabernacle. It was late, just past 11 at night. She was alone in the car on her way back from visiting her sister, and she had driven this road hundreds of times before. She knew every bend, every stretch of open sand, every point where the trees pressed in close to the shoulder. About halfway through the drive, her car started acting strange. The radio went quiet. The dashboard lights dimmed. She felt the engine hesitate for a half second, then catched again. She glanced at her phone in the cup holder and saw that she had no signal. She wasn't afraid. Not yet. She's lost signal on the road before. The Pine Barrens eat cell reception for a living. She kept driving. A half mile up the road, she came to a long, straight stretch where the trees pulled back from the shoulder on both sides. The moon was bright. The sand on the edge of the road glowed almost white. And something was standing at the edge of the tree line on her right. She described it later to her husband, to her sister, and eventually to a local paranormal researcher. She recorded it as being 7 feet tall, upright, its legs folded backward, the way a deer's legs fold. Its body was dark, almost black, but the moonlight caught something slick on its skin, like it was wet. Its head was long and narrow, shaped like a horse's, and it held that head slightly tilted, the way a dog tilts its head when it's listening to a sound it doesn't recognize. Its wings were folded tight against its back. She could see the shape of them, the way the membrane caught the moonlight. It was watching her car approach. She said the feeling that came over her in that moment wasn't fear, exactly. It was something older, something that sat below fear. A total cellular certainty that she was being observed by something that did not belong in her world, and that it didn't care whether she belonged in its. Her foot pressed the gas on its own. She didn't remember deciding to do it. The car accelerated. She kept her eyes fixed on the road ahead of her, and she didn't look back. Not once. Not even in the rearview mirror. When she got home, she sat in her driveway for 20 minutes before she could make herself open the door. Her husband came out to check on her. She told him what she had seen. He believed her. He had grown up in the pines. He had heard the stories his whole life. The next morning, she drove back out to that stretch of road in daylight. She had wanted to see the spot in the sun. She wanted to convince herself that she had imagined it. The tree line was exactly where she remembered. The stretch of sand was exactly where she remembered. And in the sand, just past the shoulder, just where the creature had been standing, were 2 deep prints, cloven, like a goat's, pressed several inches into the soil. They walked 2 steps toward the road, and then they stopped. So, what was it? Truly, for the people of the Pine Barrens, the Jersey Devil is no joke. It's not a mascot. It's not a piece of folklore that they smile at for tourists and then roll their eyes about in private. Ask the old-timers in Chatsworth, in Leeds Point, in Smithville, in the towns on the edge of the forest where the pines lean in close to the back porches, and they'll tell you that the creature is real. Their grandparents saw it. Their parents saw it. Some of them have seen it themselves. You don't have to believe them, but you also don't get to tell them what they saw. For those outside the region, the explanations vary. Skeptics point to a combination of factors that can account for nearly every Jersey Devil sighting on record. The Pine Barrens are home to several species of large native birds, including the sandhill crane, which stands nearly 5 feet tall and has a wingspan of over 6 feet. To a farmer in the dark, at a distance, the sandhill crane taking flight can look startlingly large, startlingly wrong. Owl calls carry strangely through cedar swamps. Deer silhouettes in moonlight can look disturbingly humanoid. The disorientation that comes from being lost in dense woods at night can make the ordinary feel supernatural. In the 1909 Phenomenal Week, some historians argue, was a case of mass hysteria, fueled by newspapers competing for readers. Once one paper ran a Jersey Devil story, every other paper ran one too. Once people were told to look for a flying creature with cloven hooves, they saw one everywhere they looked. Tracks in the snow get reinterpreted. Ordinary sounds became terrifying. The panic fed itself. These are reasonable arguments. But they have trouble with a few of the details. They have trouble explaining why the sightings didn't begin with the 1909 event, why they had already been documented in local records for nearly 200 years before the newspapers ever got involved, why farmers in the 1820s and the 1850s and the 1880s reported the same creature with the same features, long before there was any media frenzy to feed. They have trouble explaining the cloven tracks on rooftops, the prints that walk across shingles and up the sides of buildings, and across the tops of fences, in patterns no four-legged animal can make. And they have trouble with the consistency. Thousands of people spread across 3 centuries, with no contact with one another, describing the same body, the same wrong head, the same unblinking red eyes, the same shriek, a sound that witnesses again and again describe as being impossible to mistake for any known animal. The skeptics are right that some sightings are misidentifications. Some of them certainly are. Nearly every cryptid sighting across every culture is, in part, a story of the human brain filling in gaps with whatever is closest at hand. But that does not account for all of them. And it doesn't account for the thing that the thesis of this entire legend turns on. The Jersey Devil doesn't hide. Bigfoot hides. The Loch Ness Monster hides. Nearly every cryptid in North American tradition is defined by how rarely it's seen, how carefully it avoids human contact, how much effort it takes to even catch a glimpse. The Jersey Devil's the opposite. It appears on front porches, on public streets, in the path of moving vehicles, in the sky above a town at dawn. It lands on rooftops. It attacks trolley cars in full view of passengers. It stands at the edge of the tree line while headlights sweep across it, and it doesn't move. This is not the behavior of a shy animal that survived by avoiding us. This is the behavior of something that knows, with complete certainty, that being seen will not cost it anything. And 300 years of evidence suggest it's right. Before I close, I want to say something that I think matters. The Jersey Devil is, in one sense, a piece of pop culture. It's a hockey mascot. It's a bar logo. It's a Halloween costume. It's the subject of 100 documentaries and 1,000 internet articles, and it's treated by the wider world as a fun piece of American weirdness. But for the people who live in the Pine Barrens, and for the families whose grandparents settled that land 3 and 4 generations back, the creature is something more. It's a piece of their history, a piece of their identity, a thread that runs through the ghost stories their grandmothers told them, and the warnings their grandfathers gave them when they were out in the woods at night. It's also a story that was built, in part, on the persecution of a real family. The lead's name has carried the weight of this legend for nearly 300 years, and there are descendants of that family still living in New Jersey today. The way we talk about their ancestors matters. The fact that the story may have begun as political slander doesn't erase the toll it took on the people whose name it borrowed. So when we talk about the Jersey Devil, we do so with an awareness of what this story is, and where it came from, and who has carried it. It's not just a monster. It's a piece of American folk history, shaped by religion, politics, loss, poverty, fear, and the long shadow of a family whose neighbors believed, for centuries, that their descendants were marked. With that said, I'm not going to pretend that the creature itself isn't real to the people who have seen it, because to them, it is, and the woods it lives in are real, and the sounds in those woods at night are real, and I would not walk into the Pine Barrens alone at midnight, and I'm willing to bet neither would you. The modern world tells us that monsters hide, that if something is real, we would have caught it by now, that 300 years of watchful eyes and surveillance cameras and cell phones in every pocket is enough for any living creature to be cornered, cataloged, and explained. But the Jersey Devil was never hiding. That's the part of the story that most people seem to miss. The part that should unsettle you more than the hoof prints, more than the red eyes, more than the shrieks in the pines at night. For 300 years, this thing has let itself be seen by farmers, by priests, by police officers, by mothers standing in their own backyards, by congressmen, by 1,000 people in a single week. It's been seen countless times, and it's never been caught, not photographed, not filmed, not shot and dragged back into town, not ever. Across 10 generations of American life, the Jersey Devil has walked through the most densely populated state in the country, in full view of its witnesses, and has never left behind anything but the tracks it wanted us to find. And that is not the behavior of a myth. A myth can't choose when to appear. A mass hallucination doesn't leave cloven hoofprints in the snow at dawn. A newspaper panic doesn't land on a roof in Burlington, New Jersey, and walk across the shingles in a pattern no four-legged animal could make. Something out there is choosing when to step out of the tree line, choosing who to show itself to, choosing to let the headlights sweep across it, to let the eyes of a witness lock onto it, to let one more story go into one more newspaper in one more town, and then choosing to walk back into the woods before anyone can get close enough to prove it, for 300 years. So if you ever find yourself driving through the Pine Barrens after dark, and the radio cuts out, and the dashboard dims, and you feel the air change, and you look out to the tree line, and there's something there, standing in the open, looking back at you. Understand what's happening. It's not a mistake. It's not some accident. It didn't stumble into your headlights by chance. It wants you to see it. And when you drive away and check your mirror and find the road behind you is empty, understand that too. It was done with you.